Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Ken here. I'm back. I know it's been quite a while since my last vlog, but I can explain because I've been really busy with a lot of stuff I had to do for the semester. But since this is the last week of the fall 2022 semester, I now have a lot more time to do these things, hopefully. But there's a lot more going on for sure. But overall, I'm free now, so I'm glad I'm able to take time out of my day to do these vlogs for you all and also to share my thoughts and experiences being an MS Stats student. To start off, I want to talk about what I've been doing this semester. So, for semester, the first thing that's really been taking up a lot of my time that took time away from my YouTube channel is school. I'm taking technically 3 classes. 2 of them are back to back as they're both half semester long. So, one starts in the first half and then the other starts in the second half as the first one ends. So the first class I'm taking is Stat 640. Stat 640 is a continuation of a lot of the concepts that you've learned in Stat 620. So all these common probability distributions like Poisson or geometric and all of that, as well as learning how to do things such as how do you get the joint distribution of two or more random variables, all those things like that. So Stat 640 goes into a little bit of that and it reviews them. So don't worry if you kind of forgot about them over a year, which is kind of understandable as they're spread out a year apart. As you take 620 your first semester and then the first semester of your second year, you take Stat 640, which is kind of an odd placement in my opinion. Because by the time you hit 640, you probably are overwhelmed with a lot of the content from earlier classes that you kind of probably have forgotten them during that 1 year span. So it's kind of interesting, though, for sure, just the way that's placed. But hey, I cannot kind of understand why they did that. So that way they can get more of the core stuff out of the way so you can take your biostats courses and your electives. I mean, I get that, for sure. However, I do think that there's a cost that comes with that kind of placement. But then again, that's out of my control. And they may change it in the future. I don't know. Maybe when you decide to do your MS stats here, and they may have changed it, but as of now, 640 is something you take in your second year, for sure. But anyway, in other news, so Stat 640 has been taking up a lot of my time, partly because the way the class is set up is that there's just homework every week. So there's not really a lot of time to digest and go through content, as in our class, we go through 1 chapter a week, roughly. Sometimes we take 2 weeks, but most of the time we just take 1 week to get through a chapter. And sometimes it goes by really fast that you really have to read the book in order to understand material. But sometimes even the book is not very helpful because sometimes they just give you 1 example or 2 examples. They just give you a bunch of theorems to look at, and they just assume, okay, you should know how to apply them just because we tell you what it is, and not show you many ways in which you can apply this theorem through examples. As I'm kind of a person that likes to learn through examples, where I see a theory, I want to see it applied to a problem, so I understand how it's implemented and be able to study how it works. That way, when I do the homework, I at least have a sense of how to use them properly. And the textbook that we're using for Stat 640, it unfortunately doesn't allow for much, which kind of sucks at times. But then again, it's the textbook, and the professor that we have is doing a really good job of trying to dissect all these things and make it easily digestible, despite how difficult the content is and the way the text was set up. So it's pretty hard, kind of frustrating at times, but it's understandable. It's part of the journey. So yeah. And then there's also these 2 other classes we're taking. One of them is Stat 650, which is this class where most of it So Stat 650 is part of this 4-course series that you take if you do the data science concentration, where for these 4 courses, you're going through a lot of skills that are related to doing data science in R. So for Stat 650, which is the first in the series, that you're learning how to do some basic data science tasks, such as how do you clean the data? How do you reorganize factors when you have a categorical variable where the factors are out of order? Or if you want to change some row values into separate columns, how do you do that? Or you want to join two tables together. How do you do that? So this advanced R for data science course, which is Stats 650, teaches you sort of the basics of how to do some data wrangling. So like that. And for those of you who are probably familiar with SQL, you're probably familiar with the joins and inner joins and left joins and all of that stuff, which is something that it's going to be talked about briefly in this course, but not too much though, as it's just going to give you the basics of how to wrangle and put data together. So little things like that. As at the end, with the rate at which technology is developing, these courses are probably just going to give you a basic foundation of it, as the other stuff is something that you have to kind of learn on your own. So just remember, just because you're taking one course doesn't mean you're done learning. You still have to learn after that, by taking these skills that you picked up and applying them. A lot of times I get students who are they take a course and they're like, oh, I'm just set for life. After I just take this course, I'm guaranteed that. But no, while it may be true that these courses give you an edge over someone who doesn't have the education, you have to remember, skills change over time. New technologies get outdated, they update, they grow out, they come in, and it's important as a data scientist or a statistician, you keep up with that stuff. So I don't mean to scare you all about that, but it's the reality of the world we live in. It's constantly growing, and while you may have some fundamentals that'll always be needed wherever you go, the little quirks like what technology to use, things like that, those are things that you do have to take your due diligence and really take time to keep in touch with what's trending right now, or what could be trending in the future. So just a little word out there, and that's it. That's pretty much it. So that's 650, and then 651, man, data visualization. That's when we started learning how to do things in Tableau and doing spatial data, where you have a set of points. Can you plot that on a geographical map? That, I think, is probably one of the more frustrating courses because of the fact that these are new technologies that we're kind of thrown into, and also learning how to use Shiny apps, for instance, where given some plots, can you put it on a Shiny app? Or can you make an XY plot where you could have a button that you can change the variables that are being plotted, or can you have this button where you can do this and this and this and that? Things that are probably pretty brand new to someone who's probably never done this kind of coding before, and can be pretty frustrating, especially if you've never done these kind of data visualizations yourself, or you've never coded before. Yeah, so all these courses that, you can still get through them even if you don't have a background in coding, but it is going to be a long road if you're someone who needs more time to learn, as these courses go by really quickly. As for 651, I think the hardest part was just doing geospatial data because of the fact that, holy shit, hold on, are those coyotes? I don't know, I don't know if you guys could see that, but damn, there's like coyotes here. Oh my god. I think I just saw a couple of coyotes. Alright, they seem like they keep to themselves, so let's keep it that way. But, well, they seem pretty harmless. But, I'm gonna keep talking, because as long as I keep to myself, it's fine. They just looked at me and then they just went about their business. So, nothing too bad about that. But anyway, as I was saying, 651 is kind of a pain in the ass sometimes because of the amount of debugging it, because with Shiny apps, it's very fragile, and Tableau as well. Especially since you're learning two technologies at once. You're learning how to use Tableau, and you also have to learn how to upload a Shiny app, and you also got to learn how to upload them. Find a public space where you can upload them. And that can be very difficult to do because you're switching from R into another platform. And not to mention that you're only using Tableau for one segment of the class, and then that's pretty much it. And it's interesting because I think in that class we did go into a little bit about Power BI, which is another data visualization tool, but you didn't talk much about it. But I guess it's something that you kind of have to know on your own if you do end up working for a company or something that uses that technology. But overall, it's kind of a hands-free kind of class. And now that I talked about classes, I'll probably get into kind of what I also did this semester. I also was a TA for the stats department where I got to teach a couple of labs, so 2 labs, both of which are the same class but different sections. So this class I was doing was sort of like a lab component to an algebra-based statistics course that a lot of undergrad students take, especially those that aren't math majors or stats majors. So a lot of it's kind of pretty easy standard fare because you're doing stats yourself. You do the calculus part, and for these classes you don't have to. So sometimes it does feel like reviews because you're essentially teaching and helping them with stuff like hypothesis testing, probability, all these probability rules and stuff like that. So really, really fairly easy courses to kind of teach though, for sure. And in many ways can be good review for you, especially because these are concepts that are going to come up a lot as statisticians. And also, it's one thing that when you're learning something, but it's another when you're teaching it to someone. Being able to teach it and explain something to someone, it's like extra reinforcement for you. Really cool stuff. And another thing that's been taking up a lot of my time, though, especially because, man, teaching, gosh, it is pretty stressful. I'll tell you that, though, because I'm teaching 2 courses back to back, which is roughly 2 hours in total. I'm teaching 4 hours a week, but I also have an hour of office hours a week, as well as answering emails and grading, and also a lot of the paperwork that you got to do to be a TA, because a lot of people just don't say this, but these teaching jobs, it's 10% the teaching, and then the other part is just kind of management. You not only have to manage grades, but also, keep up with admin stuff. So any paperwork that you got to do to be as a TA, any faculty or something related meetings, you got to keep up with those too. It's just quite a lot, and there are times where I'm just really burnt out just trying to manage all of that. As I'm going to school 2 days a week and I'm teaching 2 days a week, all on separate days. So Monday through Thursday I'm pretty much booked, and then I have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to just do the work. And on top of that, just doing work for a club, ASA. So semester's driving me crazy. But I'm glad it's over, finally, because next semester I'm only doing 2 classes pretty much. One of them being the comp exam, which you have to take, where there's some review sessions that you have to do, and then there's the day of the exam, the comprehensive exam, which basically covers stats 620, 640, 630, 631, 632. Pretty much a summary of all that you learned so far in this program. And it's the exam that you got to take that will determine whether you get the degree or not. So it's highly important. So that one I'm taking, but it doesn't start until the second half of my last semester. And then I'm taking bootstrapping, which is Stat 641, where you learn about bootstrapping, where you essentially resample a data set, or you generate samples under them in order to get all these estimates of some parameter, something like that. And that course is online and doesn't start until the second half of the semester. So pretty much my schedule next semester technically will not start the second half. So I have the first half off, technically. So pretty good stuff. That's a lot of time for me to rest and take a break from school, because school has been consuming so much of my life, and sometimes I do need space once in a while to get away from that and to take care of my own mental health. While I do get a lot of rest, there's also other things that I'm doing as well on top of that rest. So it isn't really a full rest, but it is a rest in the sense I don't have to worry about classes or like homework and all of that. And the other thing that I'm worrying about is that I am doing these I'm doing an internship on top of you know my classes next semester. I'm doing an internship with my hometown, where I'm going to be working at some government facility, and I'm going to be going to work probably 3 days a week, where I show up in the mornings and then I leave in the afternoon, and maybe some work I take home with me and stuff like that. So it's really exciting, because the thing about this internship was that I only learned about it through one of my classmates, who told me about this internship that she felt would speak to me, because I care about serving my communities and all that stuff, all these social causes and all the stuff that I really care about. Week. I know it's not really much of a break, since I only have the weekend left and I have a conference on Sunday that I'm going to. But it's something. It's something to look forward to, because on the bright side, I don't have to worry about homework every time I come home from the internship. I can just leave my work over there and just go home safe and sound, and I can still get to see my classmates before we graduate. So there's a lot to look forward to, and also I can get more time to rest. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing for the rest of December. Just take a break, chill out, reorganize, reprioritize, and refocus on my life, and find something to do to keep me relaxed, and then get after it after the end of this year. Right. So anyway, that's it for today. I have a little celebration I gotta go to later today, and so I want to say thank you all for tuning into this video. I'll certainly post more when I have the time, and hope you all have a wonderful holiday break, and I'll see you all next time. So thank you all, and take care.